of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing for invocation. Here with us today is Pastor Ken Brown from the Fountain Hills Presbyterian Church.
I'd just like to say to all of you tonight that it's a treat to live in Fountain Hills. I have been to Haiti in January and Nepal in November, and I can tell you that we are so fortunate to live where we live. Clean streets, nice air, not perfect air, but nice air, beautiful skies, beautiful scenery. We just don't have the Himalayas, that's all. But it's a delight to be with you tonight. Let me pray. Father, I just thank you for these people who have dedicated themselves to the concerns of our town and the needs that need to be addressed. And I pray that you will give not only those on the council, but those who are present and have concerns to address. Give us all wisdom tonight as we address those concerns. Also give us patience and keep us kind and keep us gracious to one another, because we are so fortunate to have people who are willing to serve on this town council. Virtually a thankless job, but they do it because they have concerns about where we live. And I thank you for the care that they exercise, and I pray that you give them wise deliberations this evening. And I thank you for this in the name of the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Ken. Next time you'll bring your 200 plus slides of your trip, right?
Yeah, I really want to watch that.
Roll call, please.
Mayor Kavanaugh,
Here.
Vice Mayor Magazine.
Here.
Councilmember DePorter,
Here.
Councilmember Yates,
Present.
Councilmember Brown,
Here.
Councilmember Tolis, Councilmember Leger.
Okay, I have nothing on economic development. I'll have that for next time. We are now up to the rotation of the vice mayor position, which is now going to Councilmember Dennis Brown. Section 222 of the Fountain Hills Town Code, with each member of the council, except the mayor, shall serve an 8-month term as vice mayor and shall perform the duties of the mayor during, it says his absence. Her absence, we'll change that, or disability. And we have now officially changed the nameplates. We thank Councilman Alan Magazine for serving as Vice Mayor, and we welcome Councilman Dennis Brown now as Vice Mayor Dennis Brown. And now we will go on to, before I go on to consent agenda and speakers, I just want to announce that item number 4 on the consent agenda has been pulled off and put on the regular agenda. It will be the first one on our regular agenda, and that was at the request of a member of the public. So now we go to call to the public. Anyone for that?
No, Mayor.
No. Okay, then our consent agenda, we now have 4. And I get a motion to accept as written.
So moved.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
And any opposed?
Mayor, 7-0.
Okay, so now we will make this our first item, which is consideration of approving 5 budget transfers from the town's general government contingency amount, $10,000 for renewal of a contract with Cecil Patterson, $25,000 to replace lights in the dog park damaged by storms during the summer, $3,177.15 for the replacement of the projector in the Fountain Hills Conference Room, $39,390 for the Fountain Hills Lagoon feasibility study, and $200,000 for the vehicle replacement fund to fully fund the purchase of the new fire truck. You have a speaker card on this item?
Mayor, I have 3 speaker cards.
Okay.
Jenny Dickey, followed by Jim Matthews, and then Bob Wilson.
Okay, remind the public you have 3 minutes. Look for the lights. When it turns red, you have to stop. Just say your name and the town that you live in.
Hi, thanks. I'm Jenny Dickey, a 34-year resident of Fountain Hills. I just wanted to, and I appreciate you taking this off the agenda item, such a consent agenda item, since it's a pretty high interest item, the $39,392, the Fountain Lake Lagoon feasibility study. I just wanted to know if if you've already paid for it. This is just a transfer. Have you already paid for it? Have any of you been able to see it? And when will we all be able to see it? Will it be on a future agenda? Thank you.
Okay.
Jim Matthews?
Good evening. Thank you for taking my question, or my comment, rather.
Fountain Hills resident?
Fountain Hills resident, yes.
Thank you.
And I noticed that there's an item on here to replace some lights in the dog park that says was damaged by storms during the summer. I would like to point out to the council my opinion of why those lights failed. The real problem with all those lights in the park, and they have blown down in the past, is that at the base of all the lights is a shroud. And I think somebody who designed it thought that shroud would serve to avoid dogs peeing on the base of it like dogs do. Unfortunately, there's a crack around the shroud where it fits up against the post. If you take the shroud off, you'll find all those lights are extremely corroded. The bases are. And that's the real reason why they're falling down.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm.
Thank
All right.
you.
Thank you.
I hope somebody looks
You
into
know-
that.
I would be
look
happy to
into that?
address both questions from the individuals. With respect to this, the gentleman is correct. We had 5 separate incidents, the most recent being a storm that we had last summer where the lights fell down. Actually, I believe it was 4 lights that fell, and the Public Works Director was there to respond during that storm incident, and he actually could tell there was another one that was about ready to fall. Those light poles are 8 years old, and part of it is that the lights poles were made of steel, the plates were made of steel, and they were not made of non-corrosive material. And so this item here will help replace those with something that's more suitable for that area, that's powder-coated, galvanized steel, and
Galvanized?
yes, and it'll be coated, powder-coated to help resist corrosion. And the plate that goes over the bolts will also be powder-coated as well. And so we've had,
You mean there's a skirt like is there now?
yes, that basically is
Why
it.
don't you forget that? Because if
Excuse me?
the dogs are still going to urinate on the pole.
Yes, but this is going to be made of a material that's more resistant
Yeah, but
to,
if you leave the skirts off, the urine will evaporate easier and it'll be less probable that corrosion will
we-
even occur.
we worked with an outside company, electrical company, that advised us, and this was what he suggested. And it's made of the same galvanized material as the poles. So.
Wish you luck.
Yeah, we would have also filed claims against our insurance company, but there were 5 separate incidents, and our deductible's $5,000 apiece, and the light costs to replace are like $400 apiece. It's the labor that's really expensive on this. So, but thank you for your inquiry.
Thank you.
And the last speaker is Bob Wilson.
Good evening. I'm Bob Wilson. I live in Fountain Hills. I also am glad to see this agenda item about the lagoon money on the regular agenda. Unfortunately, we don't get the packet when it comes at the last minute. That's the same thing that happened with the Andy McGuire. We didn't get a packet, so we really didn't know exactly what was happening. The study will be available to council and posted on the town website. Does that mean we won't have open discussion? I really don't know exactly how it works. I mean, this was a very high-profile item in the public. I continue to worry about the question of transparency from the council. The word transparent means allowing light to pass through so that objects can be distinctly seen. And as far as the government is concerned, I think that's a critical part of any government, whether it's the United States government or whether it's Fountain Hills government, is that it be open and transparent. Thank you.
Anyone else?
No, Mayor.
Did you want to comment, Grady?
If you don't mind, Mayor, Council, and the public who are here tonight, the first question brought up by Ms. Dickey was about the lagoon feasibility study and if any money has been paid and so forth. I wanted to let you know that this was a two-type phase project, so as far as the feasibility goes. The first firm that actually helped us try to cost out this project was Swabeck and Associates. Swabeck and Associates were the architects that were involved in helping to do the downtown vision plan, and that's why they were brought on. They helped identify what the programming needs were for the lagoon project. They costed out the cost per square foot for facilities for a lagoon. And then that information was then fed to Hunden and Associates, the other firm that was doing the feasibility part of the study. So they were contracted for $20,000. They were paid $10,000 right after the award or right after I signed the contract, and then they were paid the balance upon completion of what they did. The second part, Hunden, which was doing the feasibility, their scope of services were to identify the capital costs of the project, and then also the operating and maintenance costs for the lagoon. And then they were to then come back with their whether this project was feasible or not. Their contract was $18,800. The town paid half up front, $9,400. And then they did a preliminary report, which the staff and I were the only ones privy to that. We looked at it, and it was incomplete. They had some major information that was missing from it, and we redirected them to come back and get that done. We are holding back the final payment until that has been completed to the town's satisfaction. Upon completion and acceptance by the town staff and I, we will then be posting this on the town website, and we will work with the newspapers, we'll do a news release, and we'll let everyone in the community know that this is available, and it's available for review and on the town's website. So I hope I answer your question on that.
Mayor, are we allowed to speak to this?
Sure, it's a regular agenda item.
Okay. I just want to add, because I think it's critical, that the public know that the council has decided against going any farther with the lagoon project. That project, as far as I'm concerned, I think it was unanimous, that is dead as a project. So we will be getting a report, and it may be of interest to folks just to see what the various costs are, but it really becomes irrelevant. I want to make that really clear. This project is dead as a project.
And if I could just dovetail on what Councilmember Magazine stated, this project itself was never approved and voted on by the council as a project. I had a work session with the council. The council never had an opportunity to vote on this, but through consensus, I was able to proceed with a feasibility study. Since the council never approved this project to go forward, that's why there's no plan to come back to present the findings and recommendations from the feasibility study at a meeting, because at this point, council said back in October, they did not wish to go any further with this project. And so that's, as Councilmember Magazine stated and as the council members stated last October, that's why we will not be coming forward with an open meeting to discuss the findings and recommendations, because the council has said they do not wish to move any further with this project.
Mayor?
Yes, Councilman Magazine.
Well, I want to thank the town manager for clarifying, and there's one thing in particular. Some of us have heard that we, as an entire council, having the finger pointed at us for voting to expend the funds to do this study. That is not correct. It is absolutely not correct. There are some up here who did not favor the study, but there was no vote taken. And so the town manager listened to the comments and determined that a majority of the council was in favor of going forward with the study. And I want to make that very clear. There was no vote taken, and not everybody sitting up here was in favor of doing the study.
Any other comments before I go on? Nope. Okay, I have a request for 8 and 9 to be bumped up first due to the presenter having,
You still have to move those budget items on the phone.
Oh, yeah, you have to act
oh,
on it.
yeah. Okay, I'm sorry. I forgot that it moved off the other agenda. All right, then I need a motion to approve. Are you making that? Nick?
Yes, so moved.
Oh, okay. I need a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Any opposed? Nope. Okay. Now we will move on to 8 and 9. Due to the presenters having other obligations, we've agreed to bump that up to number 1. So, consideration of ordinance 17-13, authorizing the town of Fountain Hills to become a member of the Regional Public Transportation Authority. Grady?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Mayor and Council, and for the public who are here tonight. The item before the council is for consideration of us as a town to belong and actively participate with the Regional Public Transportation Authority, commonly known as Valley Metro. We're one of the few cities that actually does not participate on their board of directors and the management committee. And as you're aware, we have a commuter route that comes through the town. There's been some interest in the possibility of seeing if there can be some additional service enhancements or things that we can do in the future. And I think it's very difficult for us to consider that or try to work with Valley Metro without us actually having a seat at the table. And I think it's very important for us, in order to be a player in the Valley on regional public transit issues. I think it's very important for us to actually be at the table and participate actively along with other communities in the Valley. So with that, I'd like to have Scott Smith, who is the Executive Director of the RPTA, give a presentation to the council on this. There are 2 items. Item 8 is about joining the organization. If the council considers that and acts positively for that, then the next item is basically a resolution that's authorizing the mayor to be our representative or the mayor's designee, which is very standard across the Valley on RPTA. So with that, I'll go ahead and turn it over to Mr. Smith, who has a brief presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. Mayor Kavanaugh, members of the council, thank you so very much for allowing us to talk to you this evening as the town of Fountain Hills considers a membership in the RPTA. Just so you know, I have with me John Ferry, who's our intergovernmental relations director, and we would be more than happy if Fountain Hills chose to join us to be a member of the RPTA. This is not like a country club or a fraternity or anything.
Oh, well, then forget it.
I know, very serious working group. But I just wanted to give you, you have, I think, in your packet a presentation. I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but I'd like to hit the highlights of who Valley Metro is and what are you getting involved. What exactly does this mean? First of all, Valley Metro provides a full level of multimodal services, meaning everything from local commuter bus, we talked about the commuter bus that comes out here to Valley Metro, Route 514, light rail, neighborhood circulators, rural routes, paratransit, ride choice, which we also provide here in Fountain Hills, van pools, community and alternatives, and other items in Maricopa County. There are two primary providers of transit in Maricopa County, and that's Valley Metro and the City of Phoenix. City of Phoenix runs the buses and paratransit inside the City of Phoenix, and Valley Metro throughout the rest of the valley. You can't really tell the difference because all the buses and everything are labeled and branded Valley Metro. So unless you know what you're looking for, we really operate as a consolidated system, even though there's two separate management. You would be part of the RPTA. This system is a very complex and broad-based system. We operate every day of the year, many routes, 26 miles of light rail, 70 million passengers a year, approximately, between all the different modes. Light rail is our show horse, I like to say, and buses are our workhorse. But between everybody, 70 million passengers. Every day in this valley, 250,000 people use public transportation to commute to work, school, play, and other things. So it is quite extensive. This is our system map. I don't expect you to know the difference other than up there, right in the upper right-hand corner, Fountain Hills does make an appearance through your Route 514, and we have that route there. This is what you'll be joining. You'll be joining 16 other communities, and Maricopa County. As you can see, a lot of communities on the Regional Public Transportation Authority. This was established by the legislature in 1985. We are a government agency in the sense much like the town is. We're created under state statute by action of the state legislature. Each of the cities can join simply by a town or a city council action to say they want to be part of it. And as Mr. Miller said, we believe it's important because most of the activities in transportation around here are funded through three major sources. One being a share of the Prop 400 half-cent sales tax, which everyone in Maricopa County pays. 30% of that tax is dedicated to public transportation. Some of it goes to light rail capital needs, no operations for light rail, but other things such as your commuter bus and other items are paid for out of your proportionate share of the Prop 400 funds. And that's why we have service out here, because Fountain Hills does take advantage of that. As you can see, if you join this, there will be now 18 members, 17 cities and towns, and Maricopa County that will be members of the board. There are actually two separate entities. You might wonder, well, where does that put us with light rail? Actually, there's a separate entity, which is Valley Metro Rail, Inc., which is not a government agency, but is a nonprofit corporation that's owned by the cities of Mesa, Phoenix, Tempe, and Glendale and Chandler. Those who have light rail and those who want light rail. Fountain Hills would not be a member of, nor have any obligation related to light rail. You would simply be a member of the RPTA, the Regional Public Transportation Authority. This is a little bit about how that works. Our board meeting days are very confusing. We have one set of administrative staff. We are merged, so we have two entities that has one CEO, one administrative staff, and we keep two sets of books, so it does get a little bit interesting at times, but we make it work. We all operate under the banner of Valley Metro. These are just some of the major milestones. I won't go through them, but just so you know that once again, the RPTA was founded in 1985. There have been other milestones throughout the last 30-plus years. The biggest one that affects you is Prop 400, which was approved by voters in 2004, and as I've said, dedicated certain funds for transit operations around the valley, including the things that Fountain Hills has. The other thing, though, is this is a list of cities, as you can see, who receive funds and receive services. Fountain Hills is not on there because you aren't a member of Valley Metro yet, but you can see there's some areas where there's just a dash. That doesn't mean those communities such as Chandler, El Mirage, Guadalupe don't get trans services, but they just take the baseline service like Fountain Hills does right now. Then other cities actually pay amounts in addition. For example, Avondale pays $850,000 a year out of their general fund to fund a circulator service, which we provide, we run on a contract basis. There are some cities that, Phoenix, this is actually with their T2050 guys over $200 million. Tempe, Glendale, who have dedicated transit taxes. Oops, sorry about that. We have dedicated transit taxes, and there. Dedicated transit, they pay for services over and above what the what the Prop 400 transportation does pay, the half-cent sales tax. Fountain Hills starts off with that, and we were more than willing to contract for whatever services Fountain Hills would like to provide. This is a base of our ridership. I said 70 million riders a year. As you can see, about almost 50 million on the bus and 16 million on the light rail throughout the valley. And I won't get into the high-capacity transit because, once again, that's light rail, and for all I know, light rail is not in any plan to extend to Fountain Hills in the near future, in my lifetime or my great-grandchildren's lifetime. So we won't go into that. But we would like to tell you that we would welcome Fountain Hills. As Mr. Miller says, it's great to have everyone at the table. Just so you know, services in this valley are provided through participation in communities through what we call our life cycle plan. We get together and we have resources that come through Prop 400 through the cities, and we look at ways in a communal basis, in the sense that the cities and towns get together and they talk about where they might need services, and we try to match needs with what is available. This is something that, since as a member of Valley Metro, you would be fully invested in and fully engaged in, and we would be more than happy to have you as part of our family.
Okay.
So if you have any questions, I'm more than happy to answer them. Otherwise, thank you.
First, I want to thank you for coming out to Fountain Hills. It's not that far away,
No,
right?
it's not. I waved at my house as I was coming out here. So.
Did you take the bus?
No, I did not take the bus.
Do we have questions?
Yeah.
Councilman Yates?
Scott, thank you for coming in. I do want to say that your staff is wonderful. We've reached out to them a couple times to sit with us. In fact, I think we're in the process of updating our study and seeing if there's a better way to leverage our Prop 400 dollars. Although I know the answer to this, could you share with us what our membership fee is?
There is no membership fee. Basically, you are
Pretty good
you're membered
value.
by the fact that you receive Prop 400 funds.
And we definitely appreciate that. But although I made a joke about getting a bus through here, we really would like one if there's some way you can.
And we'll
Put you
have
on the
both
spot.
those. We'll have a wrestling match between you and Surprise and Queen Creek and the others. One of the challenges we do have is that Prop 400, as you know, is a great tax, but it's all dedicated. It's what built our freeways. And it funds a huge freeway program. And as I've said, 30% of that goes to fund the majority of transit services, especially bus services in this valley. There's a big area, and we never have as much funds as we do. The bus routes were established in many cases 20 and 25 years ago, before Prop 400 was approved by voters in 2004. And really, the big question is, what happens when Prop 400 expires? And it expires December 31st, 2025. If that is not somehow extended or replaced with there will be no regional funds to pay for transit services, and that would be a big hit for a lot of communities, including Fountain Hills, because there would be no money unless Fountain Hills came up with it to run, for example, your Route 2 514. What it also means is that we have taken a big hit like everyone else did through the Great Recession. Our 20-year plan for Prop 400 is almost $1.5 billion behind what we projected. That's what our loss on the transit side alone. Highways is much different, but on the transit side alone, it's over $1.5 billion. We're hoping that over the next 2 to 3 years or so, we'll come up with this is the time to be here, because we're coming up with a new plan that we can present to the voters in possibly 2022 or 2024 that would replace Prop 400. This is the time when that plan over the next 2 to 3 years, that doesn't sound like a long time, but just think, 2 or 3 years is a nanosecond in transportation planning. And so you're choosing to join it at a wonderful time as Valley Metro, in conjunction with MAG, this is primarily a MAG and process, goes through and determines what we will present to voters as far as an expansion of services or a change in services. And certainly Fountain Hills, with the growth over the last 20 years, as we've changed our transportation patterns, and these basic routes have not been changed in that long, will play a major role in that, and figuring out how we allocate those monies and coming up with the best plan we can to take before the voters. And that will happen, like I said, in the next 2 to 3 years. So it's very quick that that's going to take place. This plan is going to be generated, and we're just now starting that process, but it'll happen very quickly.
Thank you, Scott. Thank you,
Thank you. Any other questions? Councilman Magazine.
Thanks for the presentation. Do you have any specialized services in any communities for the elderly?
I'm sorry, for the what?
For the elderly?
We offer paratransit services and ride choice services. In some communities, we provide actually paratransit or dial-a-ride services. We provide, especially if you're by an established scheduled bus route, we are required by federal law to provide dial-a-ride services to both the elderly and to those who qualify under ADA. If we go beyond that, it's because the city will ask us, and you'll see our white vans going around throughout the valley to provide those types of services. If we don't have that mandate, which is where Fountain Hills are, we offer things such as Ride Choice. Ride Choice, which is basically subsidized taxi services. Basically, if you have any of those services, the city can define what the parameters are. Some cities choose to make that available to a broad base of citizens, some just elderly and those that qualify under ADA for disability. So basically, you can define your program, but the reality is that you take what's available under Prop 400. If you want to expand that, then the city or town must come up with whatever other funds are available. But yes, we do provide that service throughout the valley.
You may know that this town is, the average age in this town has been climbing fairly rapidly. And I think there may be some things we might want to look into as members.
And as Councilmember Yates said, we have a planning staff that we're more than happy to talk to you about that potential and give you the data as to exactly what that would entail and give you the options so you can decide for yourself. And believe me, if you saw the schedule of the different levels of service we provide in the cities and towns throughout this valley, it's amazing. It's literally about 20 different spreadsheets because Surprise offers a very different program than Mesa does, very different than what Avondale does. So it's pretty much a custom-made plan, however you want to do it, and have the resources to fund it.
Any other questions? No?
Mayor?
Councilman DePorter?
Thank you, Mayor. Just a quick note, just to echo everybody's statement of support. I mean, I think this is a fantastic and very imperative thing for us to be at the table for. Transportation is a challenge in a multitude of communities that I support in my job. I think I think Fountain Hills is primed to have some amenities like a circulator service, things that we probably can't afford now, but as we get our financial house in order, we can look to those kind of things. Ride share. Councilman Yates and I and others have talked to Uber and Lyft, and we continue to talk to them about some outside-of-the-box ideas to help our seniors with rides and just to get people around town. So, I mean, I think this is absolutely important and vital to our success and being in the game when it comes to talking about transportation. And I'm optimistic that someday we could just have light rail running right down the avenue. Totally kidding, but I do want to see it as part of this group. Thank you.
And just if I could real quickly mention Uber and Lyft. We actually are talking with Uber and Lyft and Waymo and others because we recognize that rideshare, autonomous vehicles are part of what public transportation will be like. And in 5 years or less, what you'll see is Valley Metro buses and Uber and autonomous vehicles basically interchangeable as we provide service, which is really exciting for places like Fountain Hills, which maybe you can't afford that regularly scheduled circulator, but I think what we're going to see is some things that are interesting as far as that's where autonomous vehicles come in. We've been testing small electric driverless buses that go on different routes, and those kind of things are exciting, and you'll see it happen pretty quickly, and it won't replace public transportation, I believe. I believe it'll enhance public transportation.
Councilman Yates, you have something else?
One last thing before I make a motion. Scott, again, thank you very much for coming out. The last bus stop is right there at the Mayo Clinic, so if your takeaway, if you could just add a couple miles, that's all we're asking.
And you know what? If you've got an open checkbook, I'll add 5 miles.
Allen Magazine.
Yeah.
Mayor,
We
I'm
have
sorry.
one speaker
Oh,
card.
I apologize.
We have just one member of the public who would like to speak.
Amberly Dabrowski.
Amberly, you come up to the podium.
Hello, I am Amberly Dabrowski, a Fountain Hills resident of over 5 years now, and I want to say good evening to Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Council, Brady, etc. I also want to thank Mr. Smith for coming in and doing this presentation. I know with several of you up here I've spoken to you. It was one of my top 5 things I'd like to see in this community was public transportation. So I'm thrilled to see this on the agenda this evening. I've got a couple of notes here, so bear with me. After living in New York City for 10 years, I really can appreciate the value of mass transit and public transportation. I certainly rode the bus down the Upper East Side because it was a lot faster than the subway sometimes. But regardless, I was very appreciative of it. And so moving here and seeing that as a possible opportunity to bring to the community, knowing that it last stopped at the Mayo, I think this is something that will help to attract families to the area so that they have an alternative that's a little more affordable if they can't share a car. I also think that it'll really help bring employees to the community from various areas for those local businesses that are really suffering with either we don't have family housing or they've got folks that are commuting all the way in from Chandler. I think it'll help bring some revenue in shoppers potentially, and now I don't have studies, so I can't back it up. This is just my personal opinion of, you know, some folks that live over in Scottsdale Mountain, maybe it'd be a little more affordable for those that are on fixed incomes to hop on the bus and come out to Fountain Hills, and we can give them a reason to come out because they have a way to get out. Regarding Prop 400 that Mr. Smith spoke of, I do believe that out here, if voters can see the benefit and the value, then you're most likely to get their support. So perhaps that'll help extend the life of Prop 400. And of course, if we're going to do autonomous vehicles, I'd love for Fountain Hills to be a beta community. With that said, thank you.
All right, thank you. Anyone else? All right, Councilman Yates.
Madam Mayor, I move to
You're up.
approve ordinance number 2017-13, authorizing the town of Fountain Hills to become a free member of the Regional Public Transportation Authority.
Second.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Any further council discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Mayor 7-0.
Okay. And now we have,
Thank you, and if you know anyone who knows anything about transit policing, I'd be more than happy to talk to him.
I
You
might
might.
know somebody.
And Mayor, then the second item
We
as
have to go
well.
to the second item, which is consideration of Resolution 2017-44, appointing the mayor or the mayor's designee to serve on the Regional Public Transportation Authority Board of Directors. Any council discussion on that? Okay, any speaker cards? All in favor?
Aye.
We need a
Someone
motion.
has to make a motion.
So moved. Second. Mr. Vice Mayor, I apologize for interrupting your,
You know,
I'll yield to the
it's
chair.
okay.
It's that kind of day, isn't it, Grady? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Mayor 7-0.
Mayor, I believe you will need to, probably with that motion, you might want to consider assigning somebody or yourself possibly, the way that the resolution's written.
Well, it says consideration of appointing. It doesn't say I have to do it right now. It just says I have to consider appointing. And I was going to wait and see who
Okay.
had an interest before I appointed.
Perfect. Okay.
Is that okay, Freda? Yes? Okay. All right, then. Thank you again, Scott. Great to see you again. All right, now we're jumping back to number 5, okay? Consideration of Resolution 2017-25, abandoning whatever right, title, or interest the town has in the certain general public and pedestrian access easements located in tracts A1 and A2, the private roadway tracts of the Diamante del Lago plat with stipulations. Grady?
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor and Council, with us tonight is our town engineer who will be giving a staff presentation on this particular item. With that, I'll turn it over to Mr. Harrell.
Mayor and council, thank you. The final plat for Diamante del Lago was approved and recorded in 1999. It included 7 tracts totaling 50 acres, which were dedicated to the town as hillside protection easement. The Lake Overlook Trail was constructed after the subdivision's construction, and you can see that on the map up there.
Excuse me, Randy, is there any way you can enlarge that so the audience can see it better?
We have another.
Seems like the individual slides are not coming out on that.
Okay.
Thank you.
So this graphic shows the location of the Lake Overlook Trail, which goes around the lake, east of the lake and through the property that the town owns in that area. The private roadways within the Diamante del Lago plat, which are tracks A1 and A2 on the roadways, were platted with blanket easements over them, including a general public easement and a pedestrian access easement. The town council action before you is to abandon those easements. Construction completion of the Lake Overlook Trail has taken away the former need for these easements on the private roadways, so the platted general public and pedestrian access easements can now reasonably be abandoned as requested by the HOA. This abandonment does not affect the other platted easements on the roadway in Diamante del Lago. Staff, including Parks and the Trail Builders, have been working with the Homeowners Association regarding this abandonment and its stipulations. The HOA has provided a letter of support, and their representatives are here tonight to answer any questions if needed. Staff recommends approval of this easement abandonment with two stipulations. Number one, either relocate the trail off any private property or obtain an executed grant of easement for any existing trail locations needed. And two, provide acceptable engineering plans and construct suitable features to prevent unknowing public pedestrian access onto the Diamante del Lago private streets. I'd be happy to answer any question, but staff does recommend approval with those stipulations.
We'll start with council. Questions for Randy first. Do we have speakers? We have 3 speakers. Okay, so let me go to the public then.
Mayor, we have 3 cards. Jim Matthews, followed by Cindy Rowan, and then James Makowitz. So Jim Matthews.
Jim Matthews.
Thank you for your time on this subject. Unfortunately, I couldn't quite understand what the last speaker was saying, but I just want to assure the town council that there's a lot of people use that trail, and like I say, I'm not clear on what the final issue is. I presume it is to reroute the lower portion, but maintain the trail. Is that correct?
Excuse me, Mayor and Council, it is a realignment of the trail for safety purposes. My understanding is because of the point where someone may join the trail from across the street at Fountain Park, there wasn't a crossing, a crosswalk there that was safe enough, so that staff was looking at relocating this. Is that correct, Mr. Harrell? The relocation was...
Actually, that really doesn't have anything to do with this action. This action is to abandon the easements on the streets because there is adequate trail linkage off the streets.
Did I get the item that's coming before them in January confused with this one? Because there's another Diamante abandonment that's scheduled in January.
Maybe.
Okay.
Well, does abandoning, the words here are abandoning whatever right, title, or interest the town has in certain general public and pedestrian access easements. So my basic question would be, the trail will be in existence following whatever realignment you want to make at the lower end so you avoid the close contact with the condos. Is that correct?
I'll have Mr. Harrell come up and so you can hear.
Yes, the off-street trail is currently in existence. It currently goes the entire distance. There is no need for the easements on the roadways today.
Mm-hmm.
So this is not an issue of easement next to the condos? Are you going to relocate the trail that's adjacent to the condos on the lower end?
There is one location that we will need to relocate the trail. a small area, and that's one of the stipulations that the HOA worked with us to get that relocated.
Okay, I think I'm happy. Thank you.
Cindy Rowan, followed by James Makowitz.
My name is Cindy Rowan. I'm a recent resident, actually, of Fountain Hills. It's great to be here. I just want to confirm Jim's support that we would hate to see this trail be totally abandoned from the community. And I'm wondering, I'm still unclear as to the land that is being abandoned. Is that council land, or is that Diamante's land? I'm just not sure. Can somebody answer that?
Do we have the map that we could put up, and maybe you can point to the areas? Just kind of explain where everything is, and
Yes, Mayor and Council, this action will abandon the public pedestrian easements in the roadways in the Diamante del Lago plat. And I pointed the ones in the north, and here's the ones in the south. It has no effect on the trail, which goes through town-owned property almost entirely. So it should have no effect on the actual trail that you see there today.
Thank you for that.
so Randy, these are small spur trails that went off the main trail that ended up inside the development where people could get off the trail, and Diamante is a gated community, so people could follow the trail and then go down the small access, the spur, and end up in the community, which is gated. So is that basically it? The little spur trail is being taken off that nobody took anyway unless you wanted to go into that subdivision, which you shouldn't unless you live there. Is that it?
Mayor, that's correct. Yeah, we would not have members of the public at large going on the private streets.
Okay. So if someone goes across the street from the park and they get on the trail, they are actually going the exact same, except for a little bit of realignment, they're actually going the exact same trail, the exact same distance as it was before.
Mayor, that's correct.
Okay, that's a little bit clearer then. Do we have anyone else?
Last speaker, James Makowitz.
James Makowitz. Hi.
I'm James Mackles. I've been a resident here for about 19 years, on the board of the HOA, and I've lived in the community. Maybe I can clear the fog here real quick in 3 minutes. The trail is not being affected by this request. We are dealing with sidewalk easements within the community that you are correct is gated. The spurs you just mentioned are of no consequence. They're not even maintained by the Trail Conservatory anymore. So basically, the trail, we embrace the trail, and we're actually hoping to help them with enhancing signage and everything on the trail. But this is really about the access public easements that are not needed because they don't serve the trail on any purpose. That's what it boils down to. So the trail, again, is not going to be affected. It's going to be enhanced, if anything. And the areas of realignment at the bottom is due to encroachment on private property that was unintended and occurred when the trail was put in. And this was discovered through the 2-year-plus process we've been going through to get here today. So the realignment is only to correct those encroachments which the HOA is willing to pay for, so there is no financial burden, and help the Trail Conservatory do that. And that's the only place we're talking about trail being kind of altered in any way, because currently it's on private property without a trail easement, and that is why one of the requirements to record is to either get those trail easements or fix the trail. And that's pretty much it in a nutshell.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. Any other questions, comments from council? No, if not, no other people. Looking for a motion?
So moved. Second.
Okay. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Mayor, 7-0.
Okay. Thank you. Discussion with possible direction to staff regarding the sculpture titled Fountain of Light for display on the east end of Avenue of the Fountains. Grady?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Mayor and Council, the item before you is the sculpture entitled Fountain of Light, which is being recommended by the Public Art Committee of the Fountain Hills Cultural and Civic Association. The chair of the Public Art Committee, Sandy Thompson, is here tonight, that will give some information to this, but we're going to go ahead and start off with a staff report from our Community Services Director, Rachel Goodwin. The artist is also here as well, and he would be happy to also provide additional details about what's proposed. With that, I'll go ahead and turn it over to Ms. Goodwin.
Great, thank you, Grady. Mayor, Council, I'm going to just give you some basic facts about this piece. I believe the Public Art Committee, as well as the artist, will probably be able to fill in a lot of the details. The piece is entitled Fountain of Light. This is a rendering that was provided to us by the artist. It gives you a general feel for the concept. It is proposed for a location on the east end of Avenue of the Fountains, just across from Fountain Park. The dimensions for the piece, it features a base that is roughly 14 to 18 feet in diameter, as well as the overall height averaging between 46 to 50 feet, and that will depend on the final base. The base would need to be engineered, so there is some wiggle room there, so to speak. So needless to say, it is a very large display. In trying to get some idea of space and an idea of impact on the proposed location, Director Weldy was kind enough to help me do some measuring out there. You can kind of see that this, the tape on the ground here in this photo, it kind of indicates what 18 feet in diameter really looks like. It's one thing to say it, it's another thing to see it. Really what that came back to us as it was, site modifications would be needed if we were to utilize this space for this piece. There was a couple of different discussion points. According to the rendering, this would be the general location. After some further discussion, we were to understand that the location may be further back, located in where the pine trees are currently featured in this photo. Regardless, it would take site modifications. We would have to either reroute the walking path there, we would have to eliminate some of the seating and or gabion decoration there, and or lose some of the trees. So regardless of location down there and where it was situated, there would need to be changes.
So let's just can we just talk about those modifications?
Yeah.
If it goes where Justin's standing right now, you'd have to take out the seating, the wall, the gabions right there.
Correct.
Correct? And do we have any idea about ADA compliance?
That we would have to factor that in. You do need a certain amount of clearance around for the walking path, and that would be impacted by this current location, so we would have to reestablish that walking route through there.
And just one other thing, the base itself, I believe according to Justin, and he can correct me if I'm wrong, is taller than that gabion that we see in the picture?
Correct. The gabion actually, I move to the next slide. The gabion in the foreground there is roughly 9 feet to the top of the light fixture. The height of the base is estimated to be 5 to 7 feet tall, so just about that high, just about as high as the gabion line there.
Okay, Councilman Yates, did you have a question about that?
Thank you, Mayor. Along the same lines with the ADA question, I know when we designed this with the team, the width of the paths were taking consideration our municipal maintenance vehicles, which obviously is much wider than an ADA minimum. Same thing, I take it, that would have to be another consideration of.
Correct. If we factored that in, then that would just increase what we would need to do in terms of changes.
Thank you, Mayor.
Okay.
The other piece, the other takeaway from this photo here is the trees in the background, the large pine trees we have down there are roughly 55 feet in height. And this piece is estimated between 48 to 50 feet in height. So it kind of gives you a good perspective as to how tall the piece is expected to be. Other comparables around there would be the height of our new Park Place construction, which is roughly 54 feet. So again, it would be just shy of that.
And if it's moved back, as you mentioned before, then the tree has to come down?
If the location, we were under the impression that the intended location was there close to our new fountain installation. If they were to readjust that and put that closer to where the trees are currently located, yes, we would have to take those out in order to accommodate the piece.
And that picture shows that's the farmer's market setting up?
That is the farmer's market. This would have impact on the farmer's market that's there each Thursday, as well as several other events that utilize our linear park there throughout the year for events. Lastly, the other piece of this is that, as you know, our Christmas tree that's on display, to give you one more point of reference, is roughly 23 feet tall on top of a 3-foot base, so about 26 feet. It is about half the height of what the proposed piece is. The base of the tree is roughly 12 feet in diameter. This would be 14 to 18 feet in diameter. So again, it kind of gives you a comparable to have an idea of what that impact would look like. The linear park also was master planned several years ago. We went through a renovation of our avenue. Our art nodes were installed to accommodate a multitude of different public art pieces. This piece was not factored into that, so we would need to reevaluate how this park and how that plan would work. So with that, I can answer any questions, or I can invite our public art and/or artist to answer any additional questions.
Okay, was there any other sites proposed besides this one which needs so much renovation and so much blockage? I know that if you stand, the whole idea of the linear park was you stand there and you look down and you see the fountain, and this really would obscure the fountain, the base being so high.
Correct, that is one factor to consider as well. In terms of alternate locations, I know the Public Art Committee has discussed a few. I don't know that there has been one that has been unanimously chosen as an alternate. I know discussions were had about Centennial Circle as a possible location, or elsewhere throughout town.
Do we have any kind of idea of how much it would cost to renovate this site on our behalf?
I don't, and it would really depend on exactly where it went. If it did go within the walking path and how we would have to reroute that. If it did require removal of trees and things like that, it is a lighted piece, so we would need to factor in power. Again, there's engineering specs that we would need to factor in there as well. So the cost would be is kind of to be determined.
Okay, questions? The public art, maybe Sandy, does Sandy have anything do you have any other?
If I may.
Oh, come on up to the mic. Come up to the mic.
So I apologize. My rendering skills really aren't very good, and it was never intended to go.
Just use the mic. Use the mic.
Go.
Yeah. And you just identify yourself for the record.
Brian Shader, Fountain Hills, Arizona. So I'll cut right to the chase here. What I meant for this image to be was just to give you a little background on who I am and my involvement in the arts within the community for the last 26 years that I've lived here. I started doing the Fountain Hills Arts Festival, like I say, 33 years ago, twice a year. I dedicated a couple of benefit art posters for the Rio Fire Revegetation Fund back in 1995 that raised money for the park. Again, I'm a 26-year resident of the town, and I'm raising my family here. I'm on the board of directors of two local nonprofits, the Fountain Hills Theater and the Trees in Honor Project. So we'll go on to my rendering, which is this one here. And I'm sorry, it is a little hard to tell, but basically this was intended to go in the grass areas beyond the gabion walls. However, that's just my inability to make it look like that rendering. I didn't want to disturb in any way the beautiful foreground that they created. In fact, I wanted it to be sort of a congregation area. A lot of thought went into the base as being a dedication to our town, having the potential for not only the bronze dedication plaques to be within the insets, but also possibly some mayoral plaques to honor our mayors. There's space to put 26 bronze plaques around in the base, and possibly more if they're closer together. As we all know, our amazing fountain was built as a marquee to entice people to move to Fountain Hills. I'm in no way trying to compete with such an icon. I would just like to create a complement piece with the same mission to help bring people out to the community. The inspiration behind Fountain of Light came from my desire to see a bright new beginning to the economic situation that we went through in the 2000s. And if I may, got some visual aids here. First, if we can dim the house lights, I'll light up the model here so people can kind of get a feel for what the big piece would look like. Glass has a wonderful ability of transmitting light. So depending on how we do it, the light obviously casts up the whole stock. And I'm sure there are concerns with a lot of people of the type of glass we'll use, so I provided you here with, if you don't mind.
Sure.
That is a sample of the substantial nature of what will be used in the piece. It's 3/4 inch plate glass fused together. There will be no element smaller than 1.5 inches thick, which are these tips. This is the only place where it will taper down to 1.5 inches, and these will sit at a height of about 20-some feet off the ground. The rest of the block will be 6 inches wide, or excuse me, 8 inches wide by 6 inches deep. So there isn't any public safety issue here concerning glass breaking and falling on people. The glass is also all retained on the inside of the sculpture, so if by some odd chance something were to happen, it would fall inside the structure. I did come up with alternative locations. Grady asked me if I wouldn't mind showing a mock-up of it in the Centennial Circle, so that's what that is. I'd also like to mention that the west end of the avenues, right in front of Town Hall, would be a beautiful place. Also set back from the corner that's already completed into the grass area where it would be less disturbing for any construction to anything that's existing there. Here's a detail of the engineering that you've already seen. Next to that are a couple of photographs of the process of this galvanizing. I'm standing on the forks of the forklift there with the galvanizing piece. The entire structure will be submerged in molten zinc. This process is known as hot dip galvanizing. The process will provide protection against rust, and being that we live in such a dry climate, the finish will last for a minimum of 75 years with no maintenance. This is a detail from the company whose patina chemicals I use. It's a acid-based patina that reacts with the zinc and creates a beautiful bronze brown color. According to their website, and it says there, I'm not sure if you guys can read that, but basically because there are no pigments, it's not a paint, it reacts with the galvanizing. It's a layer of color that they say will not fade. And I've used it for, 8-10 years now, and I haven't noticed any fading or anything like that. And it isn't, since it isn't a paint, it doesn't peel off or chip or anything like that either. Based on the thickness of the galvanizing structure, galvanizing reacts to the metal's thickness. So the thicker the metal, the thicker the galvanizing coating will be. I did contact AZZ Galvanizing for a statement from them. Unfortunately, they didn't get back to me, but I went with their graph from their website. And the pink area is what they told me over the phone would be the thickness of galvanizing based on a 5/8 inch thick steel structure. So that estimate shows us at 90 to 100 years before any maintenance. And maintenance is simply, if we start to see a little bit of rust, they can grind it off with a wire brush, and then they recoat with either liquid galvanizing or paint galvanizing. I received a call from Joe Bill regarding the compliance with the new lighting ordinances, and I'm happy to work with the town officials to see that we remain within compliance on that. In closing, I'd like to mention that with the considerable press a piece of this magnitude would receive, there might not be a better time or a better sculpture to present a campaign to dispel the myth that art is funded by public money. So
Okay.
that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Just in case anyone has any questions,
All right.
we'll call you up. It certainly is a beautiful piece. I think that the issue with me is the location. And actually, it is such a beautiful piece that it seems almost lost where you wanted to put it. I mean, I like more the Centennial Circle because it's a huge piece and it's a very, very big circle and very open. It just seems like it would be more appropriate for something like that or for a more open area. And I think the other issue is that we've been hearing from residents that they don't really want any more art pieces on the median, except for the few nodes that are still left, because they feel it's becoming overcrowded, and with the farmers market and those different events that we have there, we're losing all of our space for them to stroll and to use it. Is the Centennial Circle one of the considerations? If I could ask maybe Sandy Thompson to come up, would you mind if I get Sandy?
If I may, I just wanted to mention that I originally thought of this location because my feeling was that as new people come into town, their attention goes just to the fountain, and they drive around the fountain. All our merchants are on the avenue, and it would surely be nice to bring some attention to that side. Now that we're developing it, of course, we'll have more attention anyway, but my original idea was just get them to turn down that way because there's something there to look at. But
Right.
Centennial Circle is a beautiful spot, and actually I would love that, or the other end of the avenue. Thank you.
Sandy, yeah, how does the art committee feel about the location?
Well, it's how do I put this? It's kind of split. We think, well, personally, I think the Centennial Circle would be perfect because we've always wanted a signature piece there, a huge piece that would, draw your eye to it. The only qualm with that is that Power of Thought has been there for some time, and it's known to be there. And I know a lot of the schools take their kids and show it and teach them all of the different things that Power of Thought is about. And who would, pay for the cost of having that moved, and where would we move it to?
Right.
So that's the qualms about the Centennial Circle. Now, we are in agreement mostly if it did go on the west end of the avenue. Maybe even if there's too much there, we were thinking maybe even if it, it's still the median, but it's across the street, and where there's some trees there now, but on the upper half of the avenue, and right there at the corner.
By Town Hall?
Instead of where the ducks are, or the
Eagle.
Eagle, thank you. Where the eagle is, and that's pretty much at the end of the medium on this side before you get to La Montana. But there's room on the other side, right there on La Montana, but on the west side, that maybe you could even go. Maybe it'd be closer. It would still be at the end. If you were walking the fountain and you would look, the avenue rather, and you'd look west, you would see it because it's huge. But if we're afraid of adding too much right on the avenue, that would be a big place for it to go, right across from the post office, basically.
Councilman Yates?
Sandy, if you don't mind, Brian, could I ask you another question? But
Come on,
Sandy,
Brian.
don't go anywhere. Brian, first, thank you so much for living here and even bringing this idea that's tremendous, and I'm glad you thought of this. You mentioned about putting the potential of putting some placards along the base. Was it intended to be kind of a up close, or would it be okay?
Yeah, sort of a congregation area. In fact,
it is?
as detailed, the bronze plaques would be in insets in a backrest It's a bench seat all the way around the perimeter. And the reason we did this was because Dave Montgomery is a local engineer who did that detail for me. God bless him, and I'm hoping to get him to do the rest. He said initially, we're going to have to dig a hole 25 feet deep for the foundation for this.
Wow.
And you can imagine that undertaking. That would be substantial. And then he just later on came up with this and said, you know what, if we make it big and it's above ground, it'll do the same job without.
Madam Mayor, if I may, as a follow-up, would you be against the idea of it being more of a landmark? And that
in other words, people couldn't get to it.
Correct.
Like in the median that isn't part of our existing median. That just kind of takes away from that whole concept of if this is our first marquee piece, it should really say something about our town. And
I'll defer to Councilman Leger because this was his idea, but I just wanted to give segue into. Go ahead, Councilman.
You know, I've had an opportunity to study your piece, and it's absolutely beautiful. We're all very intimately involved in the design of the avenue, and I truly believe, scale-wise, we scaled the avenue in a very specific way, and I think that this is just totally out of scale for that. My first thought was Centennial, but then I understand the issues with that. So Councilman Yates and I were talking about an alternate location. This might not meet your goal. However, you said something a few minutes ago. You stated welcoming people. So I can't think of a better place to welcome people to Fountain Hills than on the corner of Shea and the Avenue of the Fountains. You have that.
Fountain Hills Boulevard.
Fountain Hills or Pelham.
Thank you. Fountain Hills Boulevard. I've only lived here for 25 years. They all start blending together. But when you first come into town off of Shea and Fountain Hills Boulevard, you have that low-lying, grassy area. It's just wide open space. It's just inviting a nice piece of art to greet people coming into Fountain Hills. I think it would be akin, on a smaller scale, to what occurs on Frank Lloyd Wright and Scottsdale Road. So my sense is that I will probably be supporting the staff's recommendation, which is not to place it on the avenue. But because I do appreciate your work in the piece, I have traveled around town, and that was a spot that made some sense to me. But just, you know, you're the artist, and I'm just putting that out there. Thank you.
And thank you. I do appreciate that, and I'm not opposed to that.
And I think that when we saw this and some of the public became aware of it, they all had the same opinion. It's a beautiful piece, and they'd like to see it somewhere, but just not there. And not because of anything about the piece, just that it just didn't seem to fit. So that's why I had a discussion with Sandy about possibly offering some alternative sites. So, can we?
Definitely would love to see this piece in our town. It will be, and it will be, like I said, a signature piece, a statement piece of Fountain Hills. Because we are fountains, and I think that would be a very nice location.
Has the committee raised any money for it yet, or?
The committee's not raising money for it.
Oh.
We'll help Brian, but Brian
Oh,
has
okay.
a lot of funding behind it, he said.
Oh, okay.
So we will be helping him, but he will be in charge of it.
You're making him do the
I'll see
work.
that it gets done, yeah.
And it probably won't be for a while because, you know, of the, you know, it won't be instantaneously.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I don't.
Oh, as far as how long it'll take to be funded?
Yeah.
You know, that's always a tough thing to determine. I know that I think both Sammy's Fine Jewelry and Euro Pizza Cafe are kind of vying for who does the first fundraiser for it. So we just have a lot of community support. This was approved back in 2013, and I started talking about it then. And so, yeah, we're really pretty much ready to go now, if the location can be determined.
And we want to make sure that, of course, I know you guys know this, but please let me reiterate again to the general public that no cost to the town.
Yeah.
Keep saying that, Sandy. Get that in the paper, Bob.
And again, I want to reiterate, what better piece to drive it home that public art is not funded by public money?
Yes.
Because this should get attention throughout the media in the valley too, a piece of this size.
I think, do we have any other speaker cards, anybody?
Mayor, we have one card, Carol Carroll.
Okay, all right, let's let our public speak. Yes?
Thank you. My name is Carol Carroll, and I'm a resident of Fountain Hills for the last 10 years, Kansas City before that. Thank you, Mayor, council people, and Mr. Miller. I believe the sculpture will be a very big benefit in being able to recruit people not only to live in Fountain Hills, but to work in Fountain Hills. It syncs up with what I've been studying about the town and the benefits that we already have living here. Obviously, the 180-degree views don't hurt anybody every morning when we wake up. The Fountain Park, the theater, the arts programs that we have in the park, the concerts, the fountain itself, people come to see as well as attend anything around the fountain, which I think is very exciting. The sculpture has another opportunity in people to brand up. And coming from a business and marketing and sales background, we're selling Fountain Hills every day to every employee and every possible employee and every student and their parents to stay here, live here, work here. And I think that sculpture piece is a very nice way to say, we care about our community, we care about where you live, we care about where you work, and we're trying to make it a beautiful place to be any time of day. So the glass and steel structures are certainly something that, to me, speaks of longevity. It speaks of the future. It speaks of the possibilities and all of the things I see happening in town with the new Park Place, and the businesses are all spiffing up all over town. They're redoing their buildings, they're remodeling their buildings, and the Economic Development Council is certainly trying to recruit businesses and employees to work here. So I believe that kind of brings that all into play along those, and I have a little experience with the town of Fountains in Kansas City. It was its goal from the early 1900s to be the most fountain city in America. And they wanted to be second to none. Currently, they have more fountains than Rome. And most of Italy, they made it their goal from a cow town to the town of fountains. And if you haven't been there, just land, you'll see them everywhere. All new businesses, all new schools, all new subdivisions and remodeled subdivisions are requiring that they have fountains, someplace in it. So they met their goal through their drive and their vision of their city. Fountain Hills seems to be a very driven town, and you meet a lot of your goals when you get behind them and everybody's for it. So I would like to put my vote in, as I would love to see that in town. I think Brian is very flexible on where, and there'll be a lot of thought process put into that, I'm sure, because the town is very conscious about what they're doing for now and in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Carol. Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. So I agree, the piece is absolutely stunning. I like the vision that you've had putting it together. I would support 100% seeing it someplace in Fountain Hills. The corner of Fountain Hills Boulevard and Shea, right across the street from where Councilman Leger is discussing, Fire Rock is getting ready to put an entire new corner in with, I forget how many thousands of dollars, but they're rebuilding that entire corner. Of course, we have a brand new fire station that's just going to be a half a block up on the other side of the street. So that entire area is going to be restructured shortly. But I think that we should spend a little time and find the single most meaningful place to place it, because it is such a statement. So I would vote to move it forward, but spend some time and find the perfect place for it.
Is that a motion?
Is that a motion?
Yeah, absolutely, that's
All
a
right.
motion.
I have a motion.
I'll
Do I have a second? Okay.
How do you define perfect?
We'll let you pick it, Mr. Councilman Jay, that's perfect.
Say, put it on Fountain Hills Connection.
That you do. No, I wasn't being facetious. We want to have this relatively well defined if people are going to be putting time into it. And
Yes, sure.
my backyard, I have plenty of.
To that end, I'm more than happy to do some more mock-ups. I actually did one of the piece above the waterfall at Palisades and Shea. So
That's interesting.
I can provide a mock-up for there and other locations at your request.
How about if we approve the piece based on placement? You can do some research and come back to us, look at several locations. The one that I camped out on the other day seemed like a nice one.
That was pretty much the motion. And we have a second and more discussion, or really? There's
Yeah,
something
really.
else to say.
I didn't run for office to be popular, and after this, I certainly won't be popular. I have trouble with council approving anything at this time. I think it's a beautiful piece. I think it'd be terrific for the town. But as you've heard me say many times before, optics is everything. We don't know what it would cost to place this, what it would cost the town. People have a tendency to misunderstand. Just as earlier this meeting, I indicated that a number of people think that we voted for the study of the lagoon, wherein we didn't. We're going to have people on social media, I guarantee it, are going to claim that we're spending a lot of money, that we're committing a lot of money to build this fountain of light. We have a very important vote coming up in May on a primary property tax. And as I said, optics are everything. And I can just see social media going crazy. And I see Brian nodding in agreement. I can see social media going crazy, talking about us approving a major project like this. We don't know where it's going to go, and we also don't know what it's going to cost the town. But somebody's likely to go on social media and say, we've committed to spend $150,000 or whatever it is for this. And that would, in my view, absolutely destroy any possibility of getting a property tax approved. I think we're going to have an uphill fight to begin with. Before we move ahead with anything like this, or approve any kind of, go with any kind of a vote to move ahead, I would suggest, I won't make it as a motion, I'd suggest that we table discussion of this for the time being.
Sandy, you made it clear that the town is not paying for this. And I thought you'd said it enough, but you can say it again.
The town has no money in this. They don't pay for the putting it in the ground. They don't pay for any of that. That's all part of the fundraising. The town will insure it and maintain it, but that's along with all of the other sculptures in town. The realtors love the sculptures. We've brought in almost $2 million worth of sculptures that the town now owns. So it is up to the town where they want it located, basically. We'll suggest something, but if you don't want it there, that's fine with us. We'll just, as long as we and the artist will concur that that would be a good place. As far as this being, involved with the tax, I don't see that at all. Because first of all, if it even the tax is going to be up in May. We just put on a volunteer on our Public Art Committee. She started today, and she's going to be strictly for social media and Facebook and all of that, and she will she will not block, but she will
Answer questions.
answer questions and say,
It seems like we get that question, and then you answer the question, and then
we
we
get it
ask
all
it
the
again.
time.
So just that one answer, for the record, the artist himself is raising money with the help from the committee, and there is no cost to the town except later the insurance, which is standard for all of the pieces, correct? Okay, and with that, we'll just hold discussion. Sorry.
Well, thank
right
you,
ahead.
Mayor. I'll just finish this up. First of all, I think it's beautiful, and I think that moving forward to approve to take the next steps and try to find that perfect location, this is a perfect example of how we need to get more community engagement. And that was one of the challenges with the Crystal Lagoon concept, and like Councilman Magazine said, a lot of misinformation that destroyed that before it even got to first base. So I think this may be an opportunity to have community engagement and hopefully in a positive way, reach out to the community and the social media community and see what people say. I think it's beautiful. I think it could bring a lot of attention to the entire arts district and everything that we already have. And this is the type of press that I think we need to bring some tourism to our town, which is going to be less tourism than maybe a regional draw, similar to what the previous concept was. Alan?
All right, well, let me just call the question here. Everybody's had their say, and we've got to move on. So we have a motion and a second, and the motion is
Is to move this project forward and to find the proper location. Maybe perfect was not the correct word, but to find the proper location to where it will be the most meaningful for the town and the most meaningful spot for the piece of art.
Okay. Can we get a roll call vote on that?
Councilmember Magazine?
Nay.
Councilmember Toles?
Yes.
Councilmember Yates?
Aye.
Councilmember Leger? Vice Mayor Brown?
Aye.
Councilmember DePorter?
Aye.
And Mayor Kavanaugh?
Aye.
Mayor 6-1.
Okay. Brian, thank you for coming. Thank you for bringing this. What are you going to do with this now? Put it- Oh.
You signed a waiver.
Did your daughter tell you that I already met her at the third grade class? They wrote? I got your letters. I have all your letters right here. I was going to read some of them later. Okay? All right, we will move on. Let's see. Number 7, consideration of cooperative purchase agreement, C 2018-077 with Infrastructure Asset Management LLC in the amount of $69,995 for pavement performance data collection and reporting. Grady.
Mayor and Council, you'll recall that last month in November, there was a work session, special session, actually on the discussion or topic of pavement maintenance and pavement management. And during that discussion, there was big interest on the part of the council to change the methodology of basically going from the zone approach to basically trying to address the worst case situations as it related to the pavement quality, and those that are in the most distress, try to deal with those first. As part of that, we need to do some extensive pavement assessment. And so before you is a consideration of a contract for a company by the name of Infrastructure Asset Management for $69,995 to actually conduct this so that we can evaluate our streets and then also come up with a letter grading for our streets. And that will then help you determine how much and help prioritize how to address our pavement maintenance. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Justin Weldy, our Public Works Director, who has additional details on this, this item.
Thank you, Grady. Good evening, Mayor and Council. We discussed this in detail at the special session, and there are no substantial changes to that in regards to what staff was proposing. There is, however, just a little bit of miscommunication in regards to the contract. So the total contract is for the $69,000, and that includes an additional $6,000 for next fiscal year for the monitoring of the software and hardware by the company themselves. Other than that, everything remains the same. If you have any additional questions in regard to this contract, I will be happy to answer them.
Councilman Yates?
Thanks, Justin. The original bid for this about a year ago, 18 months, was closer to 80,000, 100,000?
It was considerably over 100,000. I do not have that number in front of me right now because it's no longer relevant.
My question obviously is, great, you found a better deal, but then likewise, just because it's a lower deal, is it, I guess I'm asking for your validation as well as justification that it came down that much and that it's reputable.
Councilmember Yates, the reason it's substantially lower this time is because additional renewals at $6,000 a year were not included. And also in the original proposal, there was an owner's allowance for some density testing that was around $15,000. So again, the company has been vetted. We've done a considerable amount of research. We're using a cooperative use for another municipality, which allows us to have a reduced price. And so the company's been vetted, and we are comfortable with going forward with that.
Excellent. Thank you, Justin.
You're welcome.
Any other questions for Justin? Do you have any speaker cards?
No, ma'am.
All right, looking for a motion.
Mayor, second?
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Mayor, 7-0.
Thank you, Justin.
You're welcome.
Okay, we have any direction to staff? No. And I have to do this. Rather than what I usually do, I told you last time I visited the third grade class, and this is so awesome because I got in the mail today this wonderful drawing of me. They drew me with all the other kids, and they got me with my glasses on, and I'm not sure what I have in my hand there, but I'm on my way to the ice cream shop with all the kids. So that was a lot of fun. This is Ms. Rodriguez, and each of them, the handwriting is actually pretty awesome for third grade. They each wrote me a letter of thanks, and I just, if you'll just indulge me for a second, this is very short. I just pulled out some of the things that they said, which is kind of interesting. Some of them are really cute. They all thanked me, of course, for coming to class. The teacher probably said, don't forget to say thank you. Okay, so all of them said that first. They said, you make Fountain Hills a better place. These are just things that I pulled off of all these letters. Fountain Hills is a great place to live, and you are the best mayor in the world. Okay, right? Maybe you could put a Dutch Brothers in town.
Third grade?
Yeah. I wish there could be a parade for St. Patrick's Day. When I grow up, I want to be mayor, and I got a lot of those, okay? My favorite part of your speech was when you talked about the Mayor's Youth Council. I appreciate the work you do. I had so much fun listening to what you had to say. When is the new Starbucks coming in? Did it take hard work to become mayor, or is it not hard? I hope you can come to our school again. The city is safe because you made it that way, and I take that as for all of us, not just me. Okay. I hope you had a good time being mayor, and I bet you're going to pet a snake next. I hope you have fun cutting ribbons at the stores. I want to live here with a kitten. And I'll just finish it with this one. I want to be the first Native American mayor of the town.
All right.
I like that one.
Yeah.
And with that, motion to adjourn.
So moved.
No?
We have a report from town manager.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, I apologize.
It says, it says none. Somebody put none in.
No, number 11.
Yeah, it didn't show up on the agenda, did it?
Okay. It's tiny.
I will be very brief,
They put
because
you
it appears that everyone wants to leave, and we'll do our best to be brief on this.
All right, I didn't mean to skip you.
It's okay. No, I was I looked forward to hearing what you had to say. Mayor and Council, I wanted to give you a brief report on the technology drive. You'll recall back in October, the council voted to go ahead and to allow this particular intersection to be finally addressed. There's currently a gate that exists there, and there was a traffic study that was completed during the summertime, or actually just prior to the summer, and we reported back the factual information from the traffic counts, and then as part of that, the council did pretty much act and directed staff to move forward with a more permanent solution at this location. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Public Works Director Justin Weldy, who will kind of summarize and go over the what's proposed for this location. Also, Justin, if you, I know that the mayor had questions about the truck traffic signs as well at that meeting, and so maybe after you're done showing this, you can address her questions that she had as well.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Mayor and council, what we have here are a few slides that show what we could do based on direction to management and staff in regards to abandoning a short section of technology at the gate. The first slide shows a curb being constructed on Saguaro with a sidewalk and 2 curb opening ramps, and they align with the ramps on the opposite side of the street. Also included in this is a small masonry wall, and the pointer is gone.
Justin, you need to grab Henry's.
I think it's actually on this, is the one that belongs there.
Perfect. Thank you.
Oh, is it not working? We'll give you somebody else's. Sorry about that.
This works.
Turn it on. It just needs to turn
Thank you. I'm just not having any luck with lasers tonight.
There you go.
No?
I can do this one for you.
Oh. Thank you, Councilmember Brown.
Dennis was up there.
And that's why he's vice mayor. There you go.
Oh, my goodness.
Thank you, Bev. So this is Saguaro, southbound right here, and this is the curb I mentioned. This would be the added sidewalk. We would have to do a little bit of modification to tie into the existing one. This would be 1 curb opening ramp. This would be the second one, and the sidewalk would end here near the piece of property that is not yet developed. Also included in this is this retaining wall, or not a retaining wall, a masonry wall right here. It would be approximately 36 inches high. The yellow area in here is decomposed granite. This area right here would also be what we refer to as a bullet nose curb, and this pavement right here would have to be removed and replaced to allow for the drainage, which currently collects in the 2 gutters on either side to drain down the center, through the bottom of the wall, and out through a scupper on a saguaro. So that is the first slide and a possibility. This is the second slide right here. The difference between the 2 slides is that the added sidewalk and additional ramp would not be included, and there would just be a minimal amount of reconstruction in this area right here to add this ramp right here to more closely align with the one across the street.
Justin, there is a differential in cost between Plan 1 and Plan 2, so you want to share that with the council?
That is correct. For the first plan, the cost is approximately $31,000 for all of the work to be done. For the second one, which does not include the sidewalk, it's closer to about $25,000. The next slide is actually a street view, and this is what you would see if you were driving by on Saguaro. This is the wall right here. This is one of the ramps. This would be the drainage scupper, and this would be the final ramp.
So Justin, initially, my reaction when I saw a 3-foot wall, I wasn't too excited, but do you want to explain, there's a difference in elevation between the two ends, and so it actually will appear to be higher because of what's behind?
Absolutely. Originally, whenever we brought this to Grady, he was very concerned about the wall not being high enough and not adequately blocking the lights from traffic that would be coming down and either turning around or coming into this business here. As you crest right back here at the unnamed alley just beyond Laser, the road technology actually starts to go downhill towards Saguaro. So the vehicle headlights will be headed down, and we've determined that 36 inches height and wall will block the majority of the headlight traffic that would be crossing that area. And it should also be noted as part of the traffic study that the PM traffic in this area was very, very minimal, and the AM traffic, and this would be typically before sunrise, again, was very, very minimal.
And then in this slide, unfortunately, as great as Kenny is, our technician, he was not able to remove the gate. The gate would not be here. So that's just, if you have the slides in front of you, he was not able to remove that without removing the vehicles and other things behind there. So we wanted the vehicles there to show you scale.
Justin, does the fire department approve closing this off? They don't need access for a fire?
Well, they currently really do not use the gate right now because it almost takes as much time to get out and unlock it and open it and lock it open and go through it and then close it and lock it. And very shortly, if things move forward, the fire station will be relocated to Fountain Hills Boulevard, just north of Shea. And certainly in regards to response time, the chief, Dave Ott, would be able to answer that question more clearly.
There he is.
I saw that.
The next slide is an area where a short section of road was abandoned on Stancrest. And this is very similar to what staff is proposing with the exception of the wall. This used to tie right into Hampstead and/or be a straight shot across into the high school parking lot. And for safety reasons, this area was abandoned, landscaped, and it's kind of difficult to see, but there's actually a sidewalk that goes right down the center of this. We would not have that same sidewalk on the technology location.
And how much does that cost?
We do not have the estimate for what that cost at the time. I'm certain that it's somewhere, but we simply do not retain the records for the cost of that. And it's been a considerable amount of time since that modification was made. The final slide is actually what we refer to as a hammerhead, and this is on Mustang heading westbound at Palisades. And this, instead of having the bullet nose here, has a right or a left turn right here that's just about 15 or 20 feet long, and it looks like a hammerhead. This area, again, has the curb, it has the markers, and there's some landscaping. And there's a considerable amount of elevation change between this pavement and Palisades, and that would be the northbound sides of Palisades where it had originally tied in there.
So if you go back to the one before this, the one by Stancrest, so the gate would still be there? But it would just...
No, ma'am, the gate would be removed.
So it would look pretty much like this?
It would look very similar to this without a wall.
Yeah.
I mean, staff recommended the wall, and just in case there were issues with the headlights. Certainly the wall can be eliminated, but during some of the discussion, a wall was mentioned, so we included that in the proposal and in the cost.
Because I know this area, because I walk through there a lot, and it looks really nice. That's just my opinion, looks much nicer than a wall.
So Mayor and Council,
Just a nice, yeah.
when Council took action on this back in October, it was very clear that I had the authorization to move forward on this project. And I just want to make sure that we have buy-in and make sure that everyone understands what is being considered here. I just thought it was important to report back to you and then also to get back to the mayor with regard to her questions about the truck traffic signs and such. So is there appearance that this is something that fits what you had in mind for this location?
Councilman Yates?
Indirectly asking, obviously, there's no cost leaving it as is.
That is correct.
And maybe I should ask this way. Why is it that we're not required by code to have a full cul-de-sac turnaround that we can just dead end this? Because of the commercial district, or elaborate on that?
Councilmember Yates, in the event that we were to build a cul-de-sac there, per the subdivision ordinance, that requires basically a 45-foot, so that would be 90 foot. So that would require the taking of land on both the north and the south side to construct a cul-de-sac in there, depending on the location of the cul-de-sac.
Madam Mayor, Justin, I'm not saying we should do that. How is it that on this, we would not be required to do that? Under the present situation, it's an emergency gate. As soon as you close it off, does that not trigger a series of events that would make you comply with our existing code?
There's a couple of questions there. First of all, it's not an emergency gate. It was put there as part of the stipulation in regards to the target center. Okay. An emergency gate is different. That's not what this is. Okay. This is a prohibition on pass-through traffic. And in regards to not building a cul-de-sac, the town engineer, and here he sits, certainly could make this modification just like we did at Stancrest or we did at Mustang. Okay. And it's kind of at our discretion. It's a dead-end street, if you would. There is only currently one business serviced off of it, and in the event that there was development on the north side, obviously their plan would include some modifications for driveways and such. So we are certainly within our right to do this smaller.
Okay. If I may also too, we did actually study that because I think the council had thought a cul-de-sac was going to come in this location. One of the things that was driving the decision that we decided to not recommend this is there's some SRP cabinets that would have to be relocated, and I've been told that would cost $75,000 plus we'd have to acquire right away from the property owners, and that would be an additional cost. So we're trying to do this on I don't want to say a shoestring, but try to do it on as cheap but as aesthetically pleasing as possible.
Councilman Tolos?
Thank you, Mayor. I would concur with Councilman Magazine at this point and talk about the fact that we need to be watching
It's the big one.
every penny, and I just feel that right now the consensus seems to be of the public that they're watching every nickel that we spend, and doing something like this, and we've already paid for a traffic study, which really showed very little in regards to activity down there that would even justify an issue with the gate being open for that matter. So at this point right now, I would think we should just leave the gate as is. There's a commercial property that's currently for sale on that corner. Who knows what ultimately is going to be proposed for that, and who knows what the implication would be in that entire corner, that entire area. So I would just like to see this tabled for now and just leave the gate.
Mayor?
Councilman Magazine?
I certainly don't want to speak for the vice mayor, but I thought the impetus for looking at these alternatives was so that we didn't have to go back through this many more times as people come before us and want the gate removed. And I believe that was the impetus for this whole thing. Mm-hmm. And I don't want to spend the money either, but I think that's a wise course of action so that we don't have to keep revisiting this.
And this is actually on as a report from town manager for that reason, because the council did give, through their action, for staff to go ahead and proceed with this. So I just wanted to just show you visually what we're planning on doing.
Yeah, I'd like to know what this would cost, the end of Stancrest, and if you did vegetation too, like here the trees grow so fast, you'd also have that blocking the lights rather than putting up an ugly wall. I'd just like to know how much that costs. I think it would look nice, because I've been on this road many times, and it looks really nice, and there's a lot of traffic going up and down Hampstead, but you don't really see it that much, or even the vegetation blocks the sound a little bit. So I just think it looks nicer at the end of a street, and people that live there across the way, they have to look at it.
Madam Mayor, I would almost defer to the Vice Mayor, but I was under the impression we were to see how much it would cost to do these, not whether or not to do it. And I agree with Councilman Tolis. Optics of fear of spending money on art that we're not versus actually spending money on, I don't know what you call this, other than we don't like the gate and we want to make a statement. I can't, even if it's $15,000, that I think is, there's your optics, but Mr. Vice Mayor, if you could clarify what your original intent was.
The original intent was not to have to go through this again, but I also totally agree with the optics of it and the money that would be spent at this time. I'm only going to have to do it 2 more times. So, I'm not objecting to leaving the gate just as it is. Leave it alone. I mean, no one's complaining about the headlights now. To my knowledge, are they? Are they?
And we had heard from the council in the discussion in October that you guys wanted a permanent solution. So that's what we came back with. But certainly, if the consensus is that you want to leave things as is, we will certainly, staff and I will just keep it as is. So we were under that impression.
Councilman Tolis?
I like the idea, and Justin, I think that you've convinced the council in regards to your pavement management program, the studies that need to be done, all in anticipation of saving money in the long run. And this is the type of project that I just see is spending money, and it's not necessary right now, and it's not going to bring us any additional revenues to this community. And so, again, I just would like to see it just as is and just leave the gate for the moment.
One last item, the town manager had alluded in regards to the truck route. So immediately after that, we went and looked, and currently the truck route for Saguaro south of Shea extends 600 plus feet beyond Firebrick. So basically where that puts it is at the fire station where it currently exists. And so as part of the agreement, or what staff heard from council, we are going to be installing some truck signs down there, because currently there are not any. So we're going to have, the first sign will be southbound, just as you go up the ramp into Target. And the second one will be a supplemental placard near the fire station as a reminder. And so that basically is the turnaround for any non-local freight. If you would like to change that, if the council's direction is to change that truck route, then you will have to change the code related to it to reduce it in that area. So basically it extends to just in front of the fire station, and then only local deliveries beyond that point.
On that. And how does the SRP, the property SRP owns, they have trucks going in there? That's beyond that, isn't it?
It is beyond that, but it's also considered a local delivery. They may or may not be picking up staff or supplies, and they have a piece of property there. So they certainly have some scriptive rights to that property, and they don't always use that area. They may or may not come around off of Technology onto Shea.
Okay, so what would be the purpose of having truck traffic that just goes up to the fire station if they can't get into
the objective was to get them into the Target Center, I believe, when that was adopted. And then end it just beyond that ramp, so the trucks would have some place to turn around and head back to Shea.
Okay.
Because there's not really a turnaround south of Shea on Saguaro that's suitable for a bigger truck until you get to the large opening in front of the fire station.
So there's no other way that they could get into the trucks can get into the Target Center? Couldn't they use technology?
They currently, based on our study,
Yeah.
they use shaded technology.
Right.
Very few of the larger trucks, if any, use Saguaro south of Shea up onto the ramp. The turning radiuses and stuff are just not suitable for larger trucks. The truck traffic uses Shea technology off of Shea into the back of Target.
So are you saying that we can eliminate the truck traffic on that section of the road? Like now it goes up to the fire station?
Correct.
But if we wanted to eliminate that so that all the trucks would use technology,
Shaded technology, you certainly have that, you certainly
we
can
can
do
do
that.
that.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, so if the consensus of council is, we can certainly do that. So, we could actually come back, wouldn't they be the ones that actually have to act on that? So we
Absolutely.
would have to bring that back to you. We can't act on this.
With signs. It would just be with signs then, right?
The signs are already going to be put up. And again, in the traffic study, there was a very minimal amount of truck traffic in this area. The signs are just a friendly reminder that they cannot go beyond
Does anybody
that
have any
area.
comments about that before we end this
Yeah,
discussion?
absolutely. You open the gate up, you're going to change traffic habits. That study is totally unrealistic. You know that as well as I do. In civil engineering, you open up a road, traffic patterns change. And if you measure this after you open the gate 2-3 years from now, you're going to find a high volume of traffic. I mean, it's that simple. I mean, that study, from my perspective, was a waste of money, and it was academic. It's my understanding that the majority of this council voted to honor a commitment to the residents in that area. That's what I heard that evening, and it was to close off that intersection permanently. The town manager came up with a solution to create a permanent solution. 2 years from now, different council, if that gate's still there, the conversation's going to come up. There's a high probability people will lobby for it. The gate will be open. And the fact that we have it there, there's no way of making it irrevocable. So it's a matter of honoring commitments. And once again, no disrespect, but traffic will flow through there because it will be a shorter way to come in and out of the back of Target.
I have trouble making that decision right now because I would have liked to know how much it costs just to do the close off with the vegetation, because that would be my favorite choice of all the choices. I don't really like the idea of a wall, but you know, I think this has a nice look to it, the end of Sandcrest. So is it possible to, and that's a permanent close off. So is it possible for us to just get the cost of this?
Yes, we were trying to limit maintenance on the part of the town. And so, in fact, originally the cul-de-sac or the bullnose that was put in, they had torn out the asphalt and put in decomposed granite, and I was just seeing weeds when I saw that. And then we get complaints from people that the weeds are growing in the cul-de-sac. So we can certainly come back with that and give you an idea what some trees and some drought-resistant vegetation could cost, but then you have to put in irrigation, and we're going to have a water bills and things like that. So we're just trying to keep it as low maintenance and cost to the town as possible, but that's the desire of the council. We can come back.
I don't know how everyone else feels. I mean, I just, you know, I'd rather see this than the gate, and with enough vegetation that blocks the lights. So I don't know how everybody else feels about it.
I agree with you.
Okay.
I think that's all we need to do. I don't think we need to spend the money on the wall. If you want to block the headlights, let's build a little berm, a little landscape berm, something to, more than just a little red diamond sign to keep people from trying to drive through it. A berm would be a great deterrent, fairly inexpensive to build.
That's a good suggestion. Staff and I will sharpen our pencils and come up with something that I think is attractive, both to the neighbors and also is functional.
And Mayor, if I may, there's no need for a sidewalk there because the sidewalk would be going nowhere.
I know.
And right now, there's a walking lane there.
Right, I wasn't suggesting a sidewalk. There's
No,
just,
I just want to clarify that.
yeah, okay, yeah.
The sidewalk was included as an additional physical barrier for vehicles to not want to drive on it. Historically, when you have a 8-inch curb on either side, it doesn't happen.
Justin, just if you don't mind, could you just put Plan 2 up, Option 2, shut the lights off, and then, so we're talking about without the wall, and then where you see the decomposed granite, we'll put in vegetation there. The cul-de-sac or bullnose will still have, it'll be done with asphalt, and then we'll have curb and gutter so that it's raised. And then we'll have, in where you see the brown, that will be decomposed granite with some desert landscaping. And I'm not sure that we really need to come back. I think what we'll do is we'll just proceed with that, and we'll show you maybe via email or something what you've asked for.
Everybody okay with that?
Yeah, with the
Cal-
price.
With a price, of course.
Absolutely. Yeah, as least expensive as you can possibly do it.
Absolutely.
We'll get the greening committee to go out and put the plants in. How's that?
I think it had downtown in their title.
Well, they might be looking for something to do. They haven't done anything in a while, right? We do have one person from the audience who would like to speak on this, and even though it's just for discussion, she's been sitting here through the whole meeting, so I'm going to let her come up and have her 3 minutes.
Thank you, Mayor and Town Council, Phyllis Kern. By doing what you're doing there, you haven't solved the problem, gang. People are still gonna go to the back of Target, go over to Laser Drive. That option is still out there. Number two, you've got the alleyway down there. So if you do this, I'm gonna promote, or you're gonna have to get that road down there to where it's truck traffic, or where you can get, you know, 2-ton truck or pickups and so forth. So you're gonna have some expense there. You've got the solution there right now. Leave the gate the way it is. It's been there 17 years. I sat here 6 weeks ago and got kind of chastised, but I heard these people say that they would honor their word and leave the gate in there. I didn't hear this other recommendations whatsoever. Dennis Brown said he could think of 8 good reasons to open the gate, and 1 reason to leave it shut was for his word. Well, you're breaking your word again. So, you know, Alan, you asked us about earlier, you say people get disgusted. Well, how else are we supposed to feel out there? This money could go so well someplace else in Fountain Hills. I mean, we've got businesses leaving. Last week, we've lost 2 more, plus another gal is moving to a different location. You know, and I keep bringing this up to everyone's attention, but, you know, we have a crisis here going on. Our school systems are losing, you know, and yet you set this example that you're going to spend 35 to, you're probably looking around 50,000 by the time you get done with everything. So, you know, I'm not the sharpest knife in the drawer, but man, we got to get real here and drive down there and watch the traffic go behind Target. I mean, if I was a Target shopping center owner, I'd some way, somehow put something up there to stop that. Your little alleyway down there. You know, all we're doing is making this for Mr. Leger to have a nice little area so he can tell his people there that this is all done. Leave the gate the way it is. Art Tolles has got it right on, so has Cecil Yates. Leave it be. I mean, it's been there 17 years. Let it be there for 17 more years. I rest my case.
Okay.
Can I address the comment, seeing my name was brought up?
All right, but I think we've already,
I want to address the comment because this has been going back and forth. I'm not going to argue with you. I'm just going to simply make a statement. I do live in the area, number one. And frankly, if that gate was open, it would be more convenient for me to have that gate open as a resident in that area. I'm simply, as a representative of constituents in the town and in that area, honoring a commitment. It's not personal. As I stated, if the gate was not there, it would be more convenient for myself and my family.
any other?
So it's very clear to us, staff will certainly, we will give you a report back on this and show you what we're going to be doing.
Okay.
What was clear, Mayor, what was clear? Because I because I don't think we wanted to spend any money. I don't think that was clear. I don't think it was clear to go spend money and do anything. I mean, I don't know if that's real crystal clear, but from my perspective, it's to leave the gate the way it is and don't spend another penny on any research or any aspect of moving forward.
We're acting on the council's action based in October on this. Council made it very clear with the motion that was made that they wanted a permanent solution to this, so that this would not have to come back to council ever again. You cannot do something for free, so we're gonna have to invest some taxpayer money into this project. I understand what you're saying, but the council at that meeting made it very clear they did not want to have to address this. They wanted this permanently solved. And for us to do it, we're trying to do it as low cost as possible. And I think that's the consensus I'm seeing here tonight. I know that there's some that came up and said they wanted to maybe just keep the gate, but I'm going back to the October meeting where there was actual action taken. And I'm sorry about that.
Well, you could make a deed restriction and have it in perpetuity, that it's not gonna be, the gate's not gonna be open if you so chose. And if the neighborhood wanted to get together and put something, and propose, there's a lot of other solutions besides investing in this. I can't understand how this is gonna cost such a nominal amount of money, but we just talked about this, island over here and the restructuring of the road outside on the avenue, and the numbers were astronomical in regards to the work that's involved in doing any of these street maintenance projects. So I'll defer to the mayor.
Well, that's why I asked for, this just seemed like the least expensive way and the most attractive way, other than putting up a wall. So I'm just asking the staff to come back with maybe there's thinking about that we don't want to spend we want to spend as little as possible, but putting in vegetation and making it look similar to Stancrest, the end of that, and the way the vice mayor said, with a berm, vegetation for the lights. So I'm just asking for a price on that, because I just, unless there's some major issue that comes up with infrastructure, I'm not seeing that it would cost that much. And it's not actually, even to Councilman Legay's credit, it's not really the rest of the people that live on the road. The ones that are affected mostly are Mirage Cove. And those were the people that, came to us that I was very concerned about. That's all I have to say. So if no one else has any other comments, motion to adjourn?
Motion.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Adjourned.